organizes workshops and sessions where all creative minds of different streams can come together and contribute towards the mutual growth. As the famous quote says, creativity is not a competition, but in today's competitive world, creativity has become a necessity. At times, one has to be creative as per demand in our workspaces. So today's session has been organized with the thought of how to be creative on demand, which is needed of the hour in these tough times of this ongoing pandemic. Now, I would like to welcome our subject expert for today, Mr. Mukesh Gupta, who's based in Singapore. He is the author of 3 books, Your Startup Mentor, Thrive, and Rock Your Next Brainstorm. He is the host of the podcast, Pushing Beyond the Obvious, and the popular blog, Leading Transformations. He is an experienced facilitator, course creator, a design thinking coach, and has run his successful businesses. He also taught a course on design thinking and entrepreneurship at the Institute of Product Leadership, Bangalore. Thank you. Yes, you can continue, sir.
Thanks, Neha, for the kind introduction. And welcome everyone for this hour that we are going to spend together on how to be creative on demand, right? So just let me quickly share my screen so that you are able, just confirm if you are able to see my screen, okay? My slides. So just let me know once you're able to see my slides.
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay. So as I said, welcome everyone. Today, we're going to talk about how to be creative on demand. So as Neha rightly said, right? So it is becoming more and more critical that we are able to come up with creative ideas on demand whenever we are expected to. This is one of the key meta skills that we need to do really well in our career going forward, simply because of the fact that a lot of the non-creative, regular rote work is being taken over by machines and algorithms. There are so many different companies today which provide algorithms on taking routine work, not necessarily blue collar work that is being taken over by robots, but even white collar work, work that lawyers are doing, work that doctors are doing, radiologists are doing, and software is able to do, if not better, at least as good as the human counterpart itself. So what separates people who are going to be also rans and who are going to be really successful and thrive in the coming period of time is our ability to be creative, is our ability to be creative, not just whenever the creative muse strikes, but to be able to be creative on demand. So what we are going to do today is probably spend some time understanding the theory behind how do you be creative on demand, do a little bit of exercises, and maybe at the end of the session, we will also look at some of the outputs of uh, creative thinking, and maybe if time permits, also a little bit of think in terms of what all elements that we went through today are present in those examples of creativity or creative output. Okay, so this is going to be it is not just going to be a lecture as in I'm talking and you listening. You will need to do a little bit of work as well as we go along. So one of my requests is, if you want to take a minute, you can either type in directly on the chat, or if you feel not comfortable typing directly on the chat, at least have a notebook and a pen ready on the side with you, so that when we come to the exercise part, you are able to actually do the exercise. It is important because if you just listen, nothing's going to change. So after this 1 hour, you will go back to being the you before you joined this 1 hour. But if you actually do the exercises, you will find that there are certain elements of what we are talking about or what we will talk about. You will actually be able to experience those. And once you experience those, then the ability for you to replicate those experiences is much higher. So I'll just stop for 30 seconds. So if someone wants to go grab a notebook and a pen or a pencil, or a paper and a pencil, please do so. Alternately, you can directly type into the chat. So I will keep monitoring the chat as well, so that we can continue to have a conversation as well. So are you also able to see my chat screen, if you can confirm, or you only see my slides? Can someone confirm? Neha?
So I can just see your slide.
Okay.
I cannot
cool.
see the chat screen.
Oh, okay, cool. So first questions first, right? So what is creativity? So if I can ask you all to kind of in the chat, type in what you think is creativity. Just type on the chat. I'll just give you about maybe about a minute for everyone to type in. So this session is going to be more interesting the more you interact with me. So just type in, what do you think is creativity? New ideas. Thanks, Sonakshi. Ways to express our thoughts in a way which is not common. Nice. Think out of the box, utilize resources in different ways. Very, very, very true. Thanks, Surabhi. Anyone else? So if you look at it, everyone thinks and assumes that creativity is all about newness, right? So novelty. If I ask you, how many of you are creative? How many of you consider yourself to be creative? What would be the answer?
Not me, at least.
Okay. So,
that's why I'm here.
Okay. So here is what I consider creativity, definition of creativity. Okay. So the act of creating something. Now, this could be creating whatever it is. It could be creating a new recipe if you like cooking. This could be creating a new book. It could be creating a new story. It could be creating creating something. For example, I'll just give you this. So someone took a newspaper, an article, and blacked out all words except for some, and created poetry out of it. So that is creative. Music is creative. Spoken word is creative. If you can think, or if you can imagine, if you can dream, you are creative, right? So dreams are nothing but creative expression of whatever is going on inside of you, subconscious you, right? If you can lie, you are creative. I'm pretty sure every one of us can lie, right? So every single one of us who has learned a language, can speak a language, is creative. So that's why people say that the most creative people in the entire world are children, because they are learning constantly. They're trying out new things constantly. They are creating something or the other constantly, right? So that's, according to me, the definition of creativity, the act of creating something. Now, so do you consider yourself to be creative? Maybe quick yes, no, maybe, sometimes on the chat. Yes, thanks, Shobana. I like the confidence. Hi, Shine, thanks. Yes, cool. So all of us now believe that we are creative. Nice, on demand. Yeah, I like that. So given this definition of creativity, now we all understand that we are all creative. Now, what we need to understand is, how do you be creative on demand and do so in a work context, right? So that's what this session is going to be about. So before we move forward, one of the things that we need to understand when we talk about creativity is, understand how our brain functions. Okay. So typically, through all our senses, we experience millions of bits of information that our senses sense, right? Which our brain has to process. Now, that's also one of the reasons why our brain is the most resource intensive part of our body. Now, even then, it cannot process all of this information. So it has to filter whatever information that comes through all the different senses. One of the ways that our brains filter these information is by what we call as intentionality. Okay, so let's assume you are in the market for buying a new car. Let's say you wanted to explore buying a blue Maruti Suzuki. Maruti, let's say, for example, what is the latest car? Celero. Let's say you want to buy a blue Maruti Celero. Suddenly, you will find everywhere you go, you will see blue Maruti Celero. Why does this happen? This happens because you have told your brain that blue Maruti Celero is important for me. So what it does, it filters out everything else, but those things which you have told your brain that it is important. What happens if you don't do that is that the brain automatically decides what is important and what is not important and filters information based on that. And that automatic filter is based on your survival. So what the brain thinks is critical or survival for your survival, it will filter out everything else, right? So that's why suddenly if you hear a noise somewhere behind you, instinct is to turn behind, right? Because that is linked to the survival part of your brain. And that is why it is instantaneous. Now, another thing that we need to understand about our brains is the fact that everything that the brain stores is interconnected. What do I mean by that? An apple is not just an apple. An apple is a fruit. An apple is red in color. An apple is sweet. An apple is, not too hard, not too soft to touch. An apple is A for apple, which is a word. Apple is a noun. So all of these are attributes that our brain applies to the word or to this object called apple, right? And from here, you can actually go, okay, apple is a fruit. So grape is also a fruit. Grape is black. Black is elephant. And therefore, elephant is connected to apple. That is how our brain works. Pure and simple. Mind. Yeah, so you can call it mind mapping. You can call it, connecting the dots or whatever, right? So all of that. So that is how our brains function, which is through connections, right? So, which means that if you really want to be creative, all you need to do is connect different ideas or connect the same ideas differently. Okay. So, connect different ideas, or I'll call them dots going forward. Okay. Connect different dots or connect the same dots differently. That's all. That is all creativity is. There's nothing extremely new to the world that you've created for the first time, right? Everything that is existing, you take that and you mix it up and serve something which is new, which is unique based on what you have processed. The way you have connected those ideas is what makes those ideas unique. Okay, so creativity is all about connecting the dots. Now, if you assume that creativity is all about connecting the dots, what does that mean? So how does that help us to be more creative, right? First of all, we need more dots to connect. We need more ideas to connect each other, right? So how do we get those dots? Is by curiosity. Extremely curious people are the most creative people. So I'll quickly stop here and ask you, how many of you think you are curious about something or the other? Yes, no, maybe on the chat, please. And if you are curious, what are you curious about? Some people can be curious about music, exploring different kinds of music. exploring different kind of new movies, exploring different kind of food, exploring different kind of whatever. What are you curious? And if yes, what are you curious about? Art and craft, nice. Forms of art, okay, nice. Thanks, Surbi. Thanks, Neha. So forms of art, right? So it could be anything. It could be creative arts, which is drawing, painting, coloring, sketching, or it could be performing arts, theater, singing, music, human behavior. Very nice. So we have an anthropologist in our room. Nice. History, cool. Historian as well. Curious in technical aspect. Okay, interesting. So we are curious in certain aspects, right? Sonakshi says generally curious about everything in life. Tarun says curious about everything happening in life. That is what is the most important thing. Now, once you are curious, thanks, Shine. So once you're curious, what you need to do is collect all of these as dots, ideas, different ideas. And you need to be curious in more than one aspect of your life. So if you're curious about, let's say, for example, arts, even within arts, there are multiple different forms of arts. And don't just limit yourself to be curious about arts. Be curious about philosophy, be curious about religion, be curious about technology, be curious about history. What will happen is true creativity happens when you find two very different ideas from two very different spheres and connect them. Okay, that's where magic happens. So once you connect the dots, then you need to have a mechanism to capture those thoughts so that you kind of create a place where you kind of hold all your ideas together so that whenever those ideas then become your dots for connecting later on to come up with new ideas. Right? So that's the reason why it is important to capture whatever connections that you've made and whatever new ideas that you've generated. So which means leads to the next question, which is, how do you be curious? There are three ways to be curious and three ways to stoke your curiosity. You can ask questions, you can look at different things, and you can experience, right? So there's nothing but see, do, and ask, right? So what do I mean by each one of these? So you can ask a lot of questions. There is this book written by Frank Sesno called Ask More. I would really recommend you reading this book. He talks about 10 different kinds of questions that you can ask. There can be strategic questions. If you have a very clear intent and you want to find out how do you go about achieving those intent, those kind of questions are strategic questions. Legacy questions are questions which lead you to think about what is the legacy that you want to leave behind when you pass on. Entertaining questions are what stand-up comics ask, right? They're always a twist with the intention of entertaining someone. Interview question is all about curiosity. Try to figure out and get insights from people who might not themselves have those insights or know those insights. Best interviews are those where the interviewee comes out thinking, man, I never thought of it this way. Right? That is when the interview is really, really good. Then there are confrontational questions, which is what lawyers ask, right? They move you towards a particular direction or a particular position. Creative questions are all about leaps and constraints and things like that. Empathic questions are questions which allow you to feel how certain other people feel, right? So those are the different kinds of questions that you can ask. Then there is this book called Look by James Gilmore. He talks about 6 ways of looking. So he says that we all look through lenses. I'm wearing a glass, right? So I'm looking through these lenses. Now these lenses can be 6 kinds. Binoculars, which is to look something very far, but sitting here looking something which is very far. So distant looking. So bifocal is all about contrast. If you have something very close, how does it look? If you move the same thing a little further down, how does it look? Microscopic is all about, how can you take a little tiny bit and go really deep in terms of focus. Magnifying glass is all about, taking a small thing, but using magnifying glass to look at it from a different perspective. Can you magnify the particular thing? So for example, if you have a problem and you're looking at it from a magnifying lens, what happens if the problem really becomes too much? What happens if it disappears? And things like that. Rose glasses are tinted glasses. So for example, if you look at something from an optimistic point of view, which is a rose glass, everything looks optimistic, right? So the same thing, if you look at it from a pessimistic point of view, everything looks pessimistic. And blindfold is when you close your eyes and look from your imagination. Now the point is, if you take the same topic that you're curious about and ask multiple different kinds of questions, or take the same topic and view from multiple different perspectives of each one of these lenses, is when you get really interesting insights, which then when you combine can lead to interesting ideas. And of course, there is, last but not the least, experience. How do you experience touch? Do you experience how something feels when you touch it? Do you actually use your nose as much as you want to? Smell, sound, taste, how do you feel? Each one of these is critical in order for us to be curious about something, and then use that curiosity to kind of create those dots and then join those dots. I can tell you some of the most creative solutions that have come have been by the experience of your senses. So for example, if you are having a problem that you want to solve, and you say, okay, I want to solve this particular problem through the use of smell. What you've done is you've put a constraint on the problem of smell and a particular kind of smell, and you look at it from that lens. It's like a sieve, so chalni, I don't know if everyone understands Hindi, but it's like a chalni. So you filter something out of that, and you get whatever is in that shape, right? So whatever can go through will go through. The rest remains is what you are interested in. So that's the way to look in terms of trying to come up with creative ideas. So the more constraints of these you add, the better your ideas get. So for example, if you were building a maternity ward in a hospital, okay, now what would you think in terms of the experience that you want to provide to those women who come to the hospital, right? So in terms of smell, in terms of sound, in terms of feeling. Now, if you put these three constraints on that, the ideas that you will get in terms of how do you design that particular space is very different from if you say that I just want to have a maternity ward, right? So this happened with the X-ray machine. So I'm not sure if all of you are familiar with this, but children find it really scary to go into an X-ray machine, CT scan, not an X-ray machine, CT scan. So what someone did was create a elaborate, cartoon all around the room, and made it into an experience for the child, as if the child is going on a expedition and is the hero of a story, and the entire process of going into the CT machine and coming out is like a movie in which the child stars as the hero. Suddenly, the children are not afraid of the CT scan anymore. They are really wanting to go and are willing to sit quiet because there is someone else who's telling a story. The children are listening to the story while the scan is being done. So that's what I mean when I say experience. So let's do a quick round of exercise. Okay, so this exercise will take about, we can do it in 10 minutes, or we can do it in 5 minutes. If 5 minutes okay with everyone, I want you to list down 30 questions on anything that you're curious about in 5 minutes. The point is that you're not allowed to take your pen off your notebook until you finish 30 questions. Or if you're typing on the chat, continuously type until you finish 30 questions, or 5 minutes is up, whichever comes earlier. Okay, I'm just gonna put in a timer for 5 minutes. So I'm not gonna asking you for 50 questions, I'm asking for 30 questions. And you have 5 minutes. Time starts now. I want you to write 30 questions about anything that you're interested about. Don't stop. Don't think too much. If it only means, why the hell am I doing this activity? Write that. I don't know what question should I ask. Is another question. It doesn't matter. Just keep writing questions as they come along. You'll find magic happens once you're through with all your regular routine questions. This activity is something that is recommended in a book called How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. So in his notebooks, he would write questions like, how do I measure Milan? How do I, explore human body? Why is the sky blue? Things like that. He would ask questions like that. So just write 30 questions, whatever questions come to your mind. And once you're done, just put it on the chat that you're done. That is, if you are able to Nice. So we are 5 minutes is up, and I just wanted to have a quick hands up, or if you can just put in how many questions were you able to come up with on the chat. How many questions were you able to come up with in the chat? Was it anyone got 30? Anyone got 25? 20? 12, 14. So the real magic comes. So in the book that I spoke about, the author says that you have to create 100 questions and do it in probably half an hour or so. And I've tried this, and I can tell you, by the time you reach about 40th question, you have exhausted almost all kinds of questions that you can come up with. That's when your true curiosity starts beginning, and in topics that you really are curious about. Right about 50th question, 45th, 50th question onwards, you'll find that the questions that you ask are not the typical question that you generally ask yourself. Now the trick is, once you've asked those questions, go through those questions, figure out which questions you want to find out the answers for, and go out and find them. Right? And those answers that you find them then become the raw material for you next time when you are in a position where you have to deliver creative solutions on demand. These are your dots that you are capturing. The important thing is capture all of those dots. Right? So when you go exploring some of these questions for answers, whatever answers you get, you capture them. You capture these questions. And that is very, very important, because that then becomes the fodder for your future creativity. I saw some very, very interesting questions on the chat, and yeah, it's an exercise that I would strongly recommend that you do at some point in time in the next 24 hours. Take about 30 minutes and try and come up with 100 questions. It'll be even better if you take one single topic that is of interest to you and find 100 questions in that particular topic. And out of those 100 questions, identify 10 to 12 questions that you go out and find answers for. That's going to be an activity that you can do after this session is over in the next 24 hours. Ideally, if you do it in the next 24 hours, you'll do it. Otherwise, you'll not do it. I can guarantee that. So, another exercise. And this time, an exercise in looking. So I'm going to play a video. Let me know if you're able to see the video. So the idea is the following. So this is a test, right? So now what I want you to do is count how many times players wearing white dress pass the basketball to each other. So how many passes did you count? Please put it on the chat. 12. Okay. Anyone else? How many passes did you count? 11, 9, 13, 11, 8, 12. Okay. So the right answer is did you see the gorilla? Did anyone see the gorilla? Yes, no? Put it on the chat. Yes. Okay. Sonakshi, yes. No, yes, no, yes, yes. Have you seen this video before? Okay. Cool. So there is the gorilla. Right in the middle, right? The reason why this is important is as I said, right, our brains function in a way that all the inputs that we get, it filters out for what we really want to pay attention to. Now, the instruction was that, you're supposed to count the number of passes that people dressed in white make. So our attention is towards people who are wearing white. So we black out everything else. So that's the general tendency. About 40% of people who watch this video actually see the bear. 60% of them don't. But once you see it, you cannot not see it, right? So that's the whole point. Now, the importance here is we need to be intentional about what we are looking for, right? And not just narrow-minded focus. We should be looking at things from multiple focuses. So at times binocular focus, at times we're looking at things broadly. At times you're looking at things extremely focused. At times you're looking at things from a particular perspective. At times we are looking at things in a different shades, right? So that is what is most important. So the third exercise, and hopefully the last one for you today, is an exercise in experiencing, right? So now I want you to close. That's right, Nibu. Typically, if you are seeing the gorilla, you would have lost the count in terms of how many times the baseball players in white pass the ball to each other. You cannot get both right at the same time. You cannot just count the balls, the number of passes correctly, and see the gorilla. Extremely, extremely difficult. I have tried this exercise with almost, I would assume, in 300 workshops with close to about 1,000 plus people. And I can guarantee you that there's not been one, at least in my experience, not one who got both right. One who was able to get the answers in terms of the number of passes and saw the gorilla. I've not seen it happen in at least 1,000 people that I've shown this video to. So the next exercise is I want you to write down on the chat, okay, 5 things, something that you can touch right now. What is it that you are able to touch and how does it feel? The sense of touch. What do you smell right now? What are you hearing right now? What is the taste in your mouth right now? And what are you feeling right now? 5 sentences. What are you touching right now and how does that, what is that sensation of touch? What are you smelling right now in your environment? What are you hearing right now apart from what I'm speaking? And what is your tasting right now? And what are you feeling right now? Hard laptop, nice. Smooth laptop, nice. Mud as it raining outside. Mobile, nice. Go on. So we'll just take 2 minutes for this. Pillow, jackfruit, conversation outside, chocolate, nice. I'm feeling jealous now. Smell of rain, nice. Carom, fan. So a lot of times what happens is we kind of block everything out except for what we are looking at. So if you go out for a walk in the park, what do you see? Do you see the flowers? Do you see the leaves? Do you see the sunrise or sunset? Or do you see? Or do you smell the flowers? Are you able to see the texture or touch the texture of leaves? What do you do? Right? It is important that we continue to embrace all of these senses, because all of these senses at some point in time will help you in coming up with creative ideas. I've not seen anyone talk about the feeling. Oh, okay. Sonakshi says, wooden chair, smelling rain, sound is mine, feeling good. Great, Sonakshi. Taste is bland, feeling thirsty. I think it's time for some water. Feeling content. Nice. Mango. Just had. Happy. I'm sure everyone's feeling good simply because of the fact that the current pandemic that is raging is kind of subsided to a significant extent. A lot of our loved ones who were affected kind of have recovered well. I hope all of you are safe, healthy. All of your friends and family are safe and healthy. And I hope you're all happy, right? So it's not just about happy. How many different kinds of emotions can you feel? Typically, people feel happy, angry, frustrated, sad, right? Can you go deeper than that? If you're sad, why are you sad? Emotional, okay? So that's critical that you are able to feel that. You are able to taste what is in your mouth. You're able to hear sounds surrounding you. Things like so. Let's move on. So once you've created all these dots, right? Now the important thing is, how do you create or make these connections and create new stuff? Most important question that you can ask yourself in order to make these connections is what if? What if emotions can be portrayed as actual persons who walk along with you everywhere you go? Does this remind you of something? There is this person and their emotions are also depicted as persons. There was a Pixar movie which did that. Does anyone remember the name of the movie? I'm forgetting the name of the movie, but there is this movie, Inside Out. Yeah, that's right. So that's the question. It started, the entire concept of the movie started with the question, what if? Emotions can be people. Same thing, what if a doll had an emotion and could get attached to the person who plays with the doll? Led to Toy Story, right? What if a robot could have emotions? Led to another movie, right? Which movie? Yeah, Annabelle. That's true. Scary one. Thanks, Tarun. So similarly, what if you took the design of a maternity home, of a maternity ward, and made sure that it was happy? What if a maternity ward smelled great? What if a children's hospital didn't smell of anything like a hospital? What if X and Y? What if X, Y, and Z? So the moment you start exploring these what if questions, what you're doing is you are letting your imagination spark, letting your imaginations go run wild and create these connections, right? Very, very important. What if, and then dash, dash, dash. So use this as a filter to kind of connect and explore what those connections can actually bring out. Is there an idea there? Right? So that's one of the most important questions that you can ask. Sorry, Nibu, you're asking something because I got a strange sound, but it was not your voice for sure.
Sorry, I got an incoming call. Sorry.
Okay, sorry, no problem. So what if, right? So that's one of the most important questions that you can ask to connect multiple ideas. Mix and match. You randomly take 3 ideas and mix and match. So for example, if you take the idea of, let's say a Western movie, which is cowboy movies, and apply, match it with, intergalactic story, what do you get? Is Star Wars. If you actually listen to the creator of Star Wars, he says it is nothing. Star Wars is nothing but a Western set outside in space. Right? So there are variety of things that you can mix and match. So the ability to find those interesting things to mix and match is simply from the fact that, can you take contrasting things that generally don't go together well, and then mix and match those. So for example, Duchamp is a famous artist. So when he wanted to create a statement about modern art, he created this seminal piece of art where he just took a men's urinal, and put it upside down and signed it. Now, a urinal, pre-made urinal, and art doesn't go well, right? They are nowhere connected. But he was able to mix and match them and created history by doing so. So, what can you mix and match? So, what can you add to an existing idea, or what can you take away from existing idea? So, a lot of times, what happens is you take an existing idea and strip away things from it, to make it bare minimal, and that becomes a new idea by itself. So, let's say, for example, you take a complex software like, for example, SAP's ERP, and you remove everything except for the bare minimum. What you get is something completely different from what the SAP's ERP is. And same way, you take something which is already an idea and keep adding. You can add color, you can add taste, you can add smell, you can add evoking a feeling, and you get a new idea, right? So what can you add, or what can you remove from one existing idea? So you need to cultivate multiple sources. So what do I mean by multiple sources? One of the things that you need to do is you create not in one source or not in one format, but in multiple formats. So if you take an example of my creative output, you will find that, I write just blogs, short form content. I write books, long form content. I have written poetry, again, another different kind of format. I have spoken word, which is my podcast. I have videos, which is my YouTube channel. I have posters, which I design for my consumption, which is something that I do using a tool called Canva. So that's another form for me to kind of create. So what happens is, when you're trying to create in multiple sources in multiple formats, you will find that there are certain ideas which are really applicable and which are really coming out in one form, which might not come out as well in another form. And the very act of creating in multiple forms creates multiple new connections inside of your brains, which then can lead to creative ideas. Same way, you need to also have multiple sources for inputs. So I can just share, some of my inputs that I kind of have. So this is my reading list. Are you able to see my Feedly page? Can someone confirm, Chavi?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Nibu. So this is my reading list. If you look at it, I have something related to my job, management, marketing, for my customers, CIO customers, for my CPO customers, design, entrepreneurship, innovation, leadership, miscellaneous, philosophy, psychology, sales, future, thought leadership, change management, finance, systems thinking, and things that I cannot categorize, right? So this is my reading list. On any given day, I get about 150 plus blogs on this. I skim those 150, select about 15 to 20, and fully read about 10 of them every single day without fail. And here is my collection of sources. So if you can see, This is my Evernote, and I have 21,000 notes here. Over a period of 10 years, I've collected these many notes. So I can search for any topic. So let's say, for example, I search for creativity. You'll find that I have notes on all of them. So if I want to come up with an idea, let's say, for example, I want to know origin story of something. So I'll just say origin story, and I filter. So I can see that I have origin story of Amazon Prime. I have origin story of penicillin. I have origin story of Apollo unmanned flight. Now what it does is all of these are dots. Whenever I want to come up with an idea to solve a particular problem, all I need to do is go in there and search and find out different aspects, different ideas, and connect them together. Right? So another way for me to do that is by creating a lot. So if you look at my creative output, I have blogged for more than 10 years now. I have close to about 725 blog posts. I've written 3 books, 60 plus episodes on my podcast, 50 plus videos on my YouTube channel, close to about 70 posters that I have designed for myself. So you have to create a lot. The more you do it, the more easier it gets. Seth Godin, whom I really consider to be one of the most creative persons, he's written more than 19 best-selling books. He writes a blog every single day. I try to create something or the other every single day. Doesn't happen all the time, but I've been consistently creating something new every week. Whether I publish it or not, I create something for myself. You have to create a lot every day. The more you practice, the better you get at it. And not only the better you get at it, the more fodder you have for creating something when it is needed on demand. Right? Another way to create, you find an idea and you say yes and. So for example, a lot of my blog posts, if you look at it, it will be of this format. So I read a blog post somewhere and I write a blog saying, I read this blog here and I think this is also true. I read this blog post here and they say this, but I don't think that is true. And here is the reason why. I read this blog post here and also I read this blog post here. When you combine these two, this is what comes up and this is what I feel. Right? So yes and, yes but, and also. Very, very important and very powerful ways to build on somebody else's idea. Constraints are our best friends. The more constraints that we bring in, the better our ideas are. So can we solve a particular problem just by using smell, just by using sound? I can give you an example. There was this Australian company which had a big problem. The problem was that customers, when they call up the call center, they were being put on hold. And at times the volumes were so high that it would take close to about 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes for someone to actually answer those calls that were put on hold. And that was actually making the customers really, really angry. So they wanted to figure out, what can we do to solve this problem? One of the creative ideas that came up, and they actually implemented this idea, was, what can we do so that we can make our customers want to stay online hearing the music. So instead of getting angry, they're enjoying the music. So what they did was, they went ahead and contracted with the most popular Australian band at that point in time and asked them to record audio singles or an album, which you can only listen to when you call this call center. This album was not available anywhere else in the world. You can only listen to it when you call this call center. So people would call the call center, and when the person answers, they would get angry, saying that, no, I didn't finish listening to the song. So they'll disconnect and then call back again. completely flip the model. There was this restaurant where they said, we do not want to have any menus. What can we do? So the idea that came up was, if you want to create a restaurant which is not like any other restaurant, which means that you do away with the menu. The idea that came up, and this was actually applied again in Australia, was that there would be a chef, there would be a set of material available, which is fruits, vegetables, and all the different. If you look at the MasterChef kitchen, they have this storage area, right, where all kinds of materials is available, cooking materials. All you need to do is go and pick the items that you want the chef to use in his recipe, and give it to the chef, and the chef will use exactly those materials and cook up something and serve to you. Which means that every time you go there, you can decide what kind of meal that you have and how creative that meal is. No two experiences are the same. Today, the reservations are like for months together, you cannot get a reservation in the restaurant. The restaurant is that popular. Again, putting constraints. You cannot have menu. Right? So interesting constraints are those that are constraints that people feel if you apply this constraint, it is just not possible to be creative. How can you have a restaurant without a menu? Of course, no restaurant without restaurants without menu were already pre-existing, right? These were called buffet lunches or buffet dinners. But again, you didn't have a choice. There was a preset menu. So no menu and no pre-cooked food. That's an experience. So the entire exercise was defined based on, how can we delight our customers and surprise our customers. So that was the thinking behind coming up with that constraint. So interesting constraints are those which are so difficult, but still apply. So exercise in connecting, last one. Look around you, identify 5 to 9 items that are around you. And once you've identified those 5 to 9 items, connect them in a coherent way. It can be in a sentence, it can be in 2 sentences, but the idea is you need to connect those 5 items that are around you, or 5 to 9 items that are around you, and connect them in a coherent way, which makes sense. You have 2 minutes for this. Put it on the chat. Curtains on the next door to the wardrobe are thick but obstruct the balcony. Nice. Nicely done, Chavi. You were a little safe when doing this exercise. So what if I gave you these 5 objects, right? So a sharpener, a charger, a marker, a phone, and a mouse. My child is coloring in the drawing book. Nice. Again, very safe. So the more random these items are, the better you get at connecting, right? And this is an exercise that you can do almost every day, right? Pick 5 random objects and connect them in a coherent way. Nice. Nicely done, Shobna. Nice, Nebu. Okay.
I missed one thing actually. One more thing you mentioned.
I mentioned marker.
Marker. Okay. Yeah. It's kept on the
Anyway,
desk.
so
Simple.
yeah. So we are 2 minutes up. So the thinking is that the more you get better at connecting these random things coherently, the more your brain creates these pathways, the more you get better at connecting random ideas. Right. So last but not the least, how do you capture these ideas? One of the ways is journaling. Morning pages is a concept where you kind of first thing in the morning you open up and write 3 pages non-stop, whatever comes to your mind. This is called stream of consciousness writing. It kind of takes away everything that is on your mind and puts it on paper, so that you're fresh and you can then apply your mind to whatever problem that you're trying to solve. Second is having scrapbook. That's something that you carry with you all everywhere you go. So I have these notebooks. If you see, I kind of capture whatever comes to my mind, whatever I read, whatever ideas that come up. And once I have this, then it kind of goes into the Evernote and is then available for me to search whenever I want to. Same thing when I'm reading on my phone, I kind of highlight stuff on the books that I read and copy them and put it on Evernote. Same way, I have these right. So all of these notebooks have scraps of information that I collect. I also have these. When I'm in library, I have these cards that I write notes on. Right. Things like these. Simple things, small things, ideas that come up, right? So you need to find a way that works for you in terms of capturing these ideas. I carry these postcards with me. So when I'm, let's say, for example, when I'm in a bus and something comes up on the way to the office, I quickly take it out and write it down. This then goes into the notebook. The notebook then goes into the Evernote, and therefore I have everything that I've captured available in one place. So what stops us from being creative? Is fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being not good enough, fear of thinking that what we create is not really creative. The most important thing is fear. Once we understand how to deal with our fear, we can go out and be creative, right? And creative on demand. This kind of stops. I know that we are already about 3 minutes over time. I'll take another 5 to 7 minutes to kind of show some examples. So if you want to drop off, you're already good. You've heard all the content that I have to share. What I'm going to share now going forward is examples of creative thinking. So if you can, please stick around. If you can't, thank you for your time and attention. I hope the session was useful. You will get a recording available to you on email tomorrow. I think Chavi will send out the email, or I will send out the email with the recording. Yeah. So here are some examples of creative thinking. What I want you to do is think about it in terms of what elements of what we spoke about today were applied when coming up with these creative ideas. All of these are advertisements. Okay. So for me, the best of creativity is in some really great advertisements. That's where applied creativity is the best. So this is contrast, right? So by using the blank spaces, they are creating something which is very interesting. So this is the Vodafone puppy. At one point in time, this was a very, very popular advertisement where the puppy would follow the person with the mobile, simplifying that, mobile network is everywhere you go. They've used that concept and kind of saying that, don't text and write. Again, contrast, right? Shadow, which if you use Arial, even the shadow becomes white. They've taken two different concepts, shadow, which is black, Arial, which helps you keep your clothes white, and mixed it. Different levels of friendship, right? They've taken something, Kim Kardashian, and applied it to the ability of them to build a building faster, right? This is constrained. So what can you do with patterns? Some of the best modern arts are like this: lines, stripes, circles, and things like that. They've taken something that anyway we experience together. How many of you here have actually had a biscuit with your tea while growing up? Right? They've observed people having biscuits with their tea and then just kind of combined it. I use for something which is generally not used for that. Right? Maternity ward. Push, push, push. Creativity. This is all about having a mouth which smells good. Listerine, what it does and what it means. So for a non-stick surface, I don't think there can be a better ad than this. Again, another one for don't text and write. People generally go to social media when they're feeling bored, right? So don't do that while driving, otherwise you'll get bored to death. So this one is a creative one. So big pens, creating the beard, big shavers, razors to again become clean shave. Pollution, right? Coke shape. So that kind of finishes my presentation. So if there are any questions, I'm willing to take them now. Thank you for your patience. I hope the session was useful, helpful, yeah. So if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. And thanks, Chavi and Neha, for the opportunity to share my perspective and insights. I'll stop sharing. Any questions?
Any questions?
You can just unmute yourself and ask your question as well.
I can see so many creative people here, and I'm sure
Ask
there
me a
must be
creative
many
question.
questions. Yeah. And there should be no fear. Okay,
So,
I would appreciate if anyone, I mean, all of you can just switch on your screen for just a moment.
So my physics professor used to tell this to me when I was in college. He used to say, if there are no questions, there are only two things that have happened. Either everyone has understood everything, or nobody has understood anything. But my experience tells me that there are always questions, but people do not ask questions fearing that fearing of sounding stupid or whatever. A mentor of mine called Matt Church, he tells me if you already have a fully formed question, which is a smart question, you already know the answer to that question. So really interesting questions and smart questions are those which are not fully formed. There is an inkling of a question, but you're not sure whether that's a good question to ask. Those are the best questions.
I have asked so many questions in that interactive chat, You must answer that all.
So what? Ask me the questions.
No, I
Which
asked
question?
when you said that 30 questions, 30 what? 30 questions. I asked so many questions and you must answer to all of them.
Why can't we all be creative? Shaheen Qureshi asked. We
Yeah.
are all creative. Someone asked, did Lord Ram really exist? Up to our
Yes.
imagination. If we believe he existed, he existed. Did NASA really find aliens on moon? Good question. You have to go find the answer for sure. How cold water can I swim? You have to try, Nibu. Do an experiment.
Hello, sir.
Hi, Kamal.
Sir, as an interior designer, I want to ask one thing. As we try something new for our client, but can't really execute that, or can't the client don't like that. So how to convince or how to remove that fear to try new thing and new thing?
You're touching upon a very, very critical aspect, Kamal. Coming up with the idea is just the first step, right? Selling the idea and getting someone to go along with the idea is a completely different ballgame. Now, while everyone says that we want to have creative ideas, we want to be extremely creative, we want new things, but generally, as humans, we are not ready for creative ideas. While we may say that we want creative ideas. So this is a dichotomy. So how do you solve those dichotomy is by anchoring your creative idea in something that is known and that's something that is familiar to your client. So if you give an idea completely different, which is kind of completely new to them, generally you will find that there is a lot of resistance. But if you are able to anchor the idea into something that they are familiar with right now, the chances that the client goes along with your idea is slightly higher, but only slightly. That's a whole course which we can do. I mean, if everyone is interested, I can deliver an hour session on how do you get your creative ideas, sell your creative ideas. I think Nibu had a question around this. How do we sell our ideas or something like that? That's a complete session by itself, because there are so many different elements of creative thinking when it comes to creativity applied to a problem that is not for you, but for someone else, right? So you are thinking creatively for someone else. Now, there is a whole lot of things that you need to learn there. But to start with, if you can anchor your creative idea in something that is very familiar, then it makes it easier. If you remember, you saw the Tata Motors ad where there was this puppy which says that we do not follow you everywhere. Now, what they had done was they had taken a familiar idea, which is the puppy and the network, and the puppy being the network, and applied it to don't text and drive, right? So it was easier for the ad agency to sell that idea to Tata Motors because of the earlier connection and the earlier work that the telecom company had done with the puppy. Similarly, if you can actually anchor your idea in something that your client is familiar in, chances are that they will actually go along slightly more than if it is completely new. I'll give you an example. Forget about clients. Doctors knew about the importance of washing their hands before, treating different patients, between patients. This was known to doctors 150 years back, that if they don't do that, they inevitably spread disease from one patient to the other. But it took them more than 100 years for that to become common knowledge, and Corona and the current pandemic to become common practice. Such a simple thing of washing your hands as soon as you see one patient and before seeing the next patient. Even before Corona, just before Corona, the current pandemic started, hospitals were trying really creative solutions to get doctors to wash their hands. One of the creative solutions that was applied in a hospital was that in every operating room, operation theater, the main gate or the main door just before entering the operation theater had a sanitizer bottle fixed at the gate, so that, and in such a way that you cannot open the gate until you sanitize your hand. So you once you open the gate, the sanitizer comes out and you sanitize, and then only the gate opens, just to force doctors to wash their hands. So clients not going along with your completely new creative idea is pretty much expected. You need to expect that so that you are prepared for it. I don't know whether that solves or answers your question, but that's the short answer.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gupta, and all our dear participants. I really appreciate all of your attendance, interactions, and patience. Hope you all really enjoyed the session as we did, and I'm sure your takeaway is what we really promised. So I would request you all that as we share the recording, there'll be a feedback form as well. So kindly, just take some moments to give us a constructive feedback for which we can utilize later on as testimonials, and which would boost our confidence for next workshops. Okay, any more questions, guys? I think we are good to go then.
Thank you so much for your time and attention, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Take care. Have
Thank
fun.
you
Stay
so
safe.
much.